Hi, welcome back to the channel, y'all. If you've never been here before, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let's get right into the story. So, Rihanna, Umbrella, Rihanna, the one and only bad gal Riri, Caribbean princess Rihanna, Rihanna's father, Ronald Fenty, has passed away at the age of 70 years old. Here are some of the details that we know about his passing. So, Ronald Fenty, the father of Rihanna, a global music and fashion icon. Matter of fact, Rihanna was listed as America's youngest self-made billionaire with a B. Put some respect on it. A Caribbean girl who came to the United States of America, an immigrant, and made it to the billionaires list, self-made. Of course, she didn't make it by herself. She had a lot of connections and people helping her along the way and people investing, but you get the picture, right? Everybody has a team that gets them to the top. Nobody does it on their own. She's on the list. Anyways, her daddy has passed away at the age of 70 years old. TMZ, who always has the scoop and is always credible, has confirmed. A source with direct information said that Ronald died in Los Angeles, California, after he had a battle with a undisclosed illness. One would think he passed away in the Caribbean. If he is in California and that's where his daughter is, maybe he was in the United States of America to get some medical help, which happens a lot in these Caribbean islands where the best help probably comes from what is called a first world country because they have more resources and so on. They can get better help. Or maybe he just saw his time ending and wanted to wind it down around his daughter and his grandchildren. His passing comes in as a chapter in the life of Rihanna, and it brings renewed attention to what many know as the often complex but reconciling relationship between Rihanna and her father. You know how that goes already, right? So I remember Rihanna telling stories about, her past growing up, her experience with her dad, what she growing up seeing. She never really threw him under the bus. She just spoke her truth, right? And then there was always love and respect that goes with it. A Fenty family has not released a formal statement as yet to the public. I haven't seen it on any major news network yet that her daddy has passed away, but the presence of Rihanna and her brother Rajad Fenty at Cedar Sinai Medical Center on Wednesday points to their being by his side during his final moments. That's a dream come true. We all have to go at one point. My dream is that I go laying in a bed, painless, slip away while my children surround me saying, "We love you, Daddy. You lived a good life. We'll see you on the other side and we'll carry your legacy on." Right. You can't ask for better than that. So, although Rihanna was not visible in the photo that surfaced online, sources have confirmed that she was in that car that was arriving at the hospital with her brother. Rihanna moves in a bubble. Security, not too much up in the cameras unless she wants to be. And by right, she has every reason to move in such manner. Now, back to Rihanna and her dad and their relationship. Rihanna and her father, they shared kind of rocky kind of relationship over the years. Has its twists and turns. Born Robin Rihanna Fenty in Barbados, the singer has spoken openly about the struggles that she faced growing up with Ronald, her father, including his battles with alcoholism and drug addiction. These challenges created a kind of divide between them, and they spent long stretches of time, not really talking to each other, involved with each other, like father and daughter should be in a perfect world, especially during the early years of her rise to superstardom, right? So, in past interview, Rihanna detailed how her childhood was messed up by her father's behavior. And she said something like, I witnessed domestic violence between my parents. I think this was in a 2009 interview she did with Diane Sawyer. She said, I was always terrified on Friday afternoons, knowing that my father was coming home. Man, this is something I say to myself. I don't want to create these types of memories for my children because at the end of the day, just like you're seeing right now, he has left this earth, but his daughter remains here with those memories of her childhood. I mean, they made good on their relationship later on down the road, but the fact remains that those moments that they lived and the scarred memories that are created also never leaves them. So these painful experiences shaped much of her emotional resilience and later inspired powerful moments in her music, such as the emotionally raw song called Cold Case Love. Despite their differences, though, Rihanna made efforts to reconnect with her father over the years. And in the late 2000s, probably around 2010, 2011, even paid for his medical treatment in Barbados when he contracted COVID. My daughter, Robin, was checking in on me every day, he said at the time, expressing his deep gratitude for her support. He eventually recovered from the COVID and he spoke publicly about getting the relationship together with his princess, Rihanna. He eventually recovered, saying he hoped to be more present in his grandchildren's lives. Sometimes, man, that's life. Life comes at you hard. Sometimes you don't have all the time, you don't have the blueprint. And I remember somebody saying, while you are growing up, please remember that your parents are growing up too. And I think about it, and it's very true. They don't have all their ducks in a row. They don't necessarily have all the tools, not just financially a lot of the times, but also intellectually, spiritually, emotionally. All these alleys they haven't gone down yet. They have unresolved issues in their own lives that have shaped them as a person. They're giving some of that off onto you. It's just a real sobering way to look at life, right? Not taking away blame from anybody who did wrong, just saying reality plays out. So one of Ronald Fenty's final public statements came back around February of 2023. Apparently, he had been ailing for some time. And he spoke with TMZ about Rihanna's second pregnancy with ASAP Rocky. At that time, he said that he was overjoyed. He was over the moon about the news and he looked forward to spending time with his growing family. Now, Rihanna and ASAP Rocky, they currently share two young sons, RZA and Riot Rose, born in 2022 and 2023, back to back, respectively. Now, although Ronald remained relatively private in recent years, it was clear that he cherished the opportunity to be a father, and he saw the new chapter in Rihanna's life as a time for healing and reconnection. Right now, as her father leaves this earth, she brings her and ASAP Rocky's third child into the world. Ronald Fenty shared three children with his ex-wife, Monica Braithwaite, Rihanna, Rajad, and Rory. The couple divorced in 2002. That's around the same time that Rihanna's career was starting to take off. You see a lot of people, you don't really know what they're going through, even though they keep a smile on their face and their spirit is so uplifting for others to be around. You know, most of these comedians, their job is to get on stage and make people laugh. And then you have comedians that end up taking themselves out of the world. And you wonder how. You were depressed all along? We could not tell. You had us dying laughing. right? Kind of like how Rihanna is. Because if you check it, right, her dad was sick, terminally ill for quite some time, and then passed away. And still, there's a smile on her face, and there is no indication that she is going through the loss of a parent publicly, anyways. The strength to be able to grieve in private, but still put on a joyous face, a thankful face, a smile for her fans, greeting everybody with some dignity and some respect, regardless, right? And then, if you look at it, her parents were divorcing in 2002, right when her career was taking off. It's not easy being an immigrant coming from the Caribbean, making it to the United States of America, and then getting on top of the charts. That journey that started, which now has culminated into her being the youngest on Forbes' list, America's self-made billionaire. A journey it is. So while your parents are going through a divorce, here you are trying to keep it all together, put out hit songs, perform at shows, do these interviews, do all the work it takes to reach the top. Man, I must give her credit for being as strong as she is or appears to be. Apparently, that's how she is. So, the couple divorced, her parents divorced right when her career is about to take off. And despite the family's personal challenges, her daddy was instrumental in her early life and reportedly encouraged her musical interest, attending some of her earliest performances. He wasn't the kind of person that said, you need to go find something better to do with yourself. I don't think this music thing gonna work. He saw his daughter, her talents, and he thought, my baby can make it. And he supported, right? Daddy wasn't perfect, but daddy was there. So in Barbados, Ronald Fenty was a known figure to the community, both of his familial ties to Rihanna and for his own business ventures. He worked in a garment industry, and he was often seen engaging with fans and tourists who were curious about, are you Rihanna's dad? Oh my God, we're meeting Rihanna's father. Is this where she's really from? Can you show us her childhood home? All that other stuff, the excited people who wanted to know everything about his daughter as his daughter was blowing up around the world. So while he never reached the public stature of Rihanna herself, which I don't think that ever was his idea to ever do that, his life was closely followed by media due to his daughter's global fame. Everybody wanted to know what Rihanna's daddy was doing, right? So Rihanna's father and daughter relationship, it wasn't without strife. It wasn't without some issues. In 2019, Rihanna actually filed a lawsuit against her dad, accusing him of exploiting her name and her brand through his entertainment company that was called Fenty Entertainment without her consent. Wow. I don't know if somebody might have put her up to that or if she saw that as a real blow to her business. Because if you look at the name Fenty, that's what her stuff is. So how could he be operating ventures in that name, knowing that that is what his daughter is establishing her business ventures in, Anyways, the lawsuit claimed that her father falsely booked shows and appearances under the guise of representing her. Rihanna sought an injunction to bar him from using the Fenty name for business purposes. Well, that could also be very damaging to her brand because if people are booking shows for you, collecting deposits, we just learned yesterday that Vybz Kartel had a show in Trinidad and Tobago, and Vybz Kartel show was 1.35 million US dollars for his one performance. So if Vybz Kartel is commanding that much money for a show, and I'm sure that that was at a discounted rate because those in the United States of America who can pay more money with bigger venues, they're probably paying way more than that. 900 plus thousand US dollars for the deposit, and that's before you even arrive at the venue to do the event. So you can imagine how much money her dad might have been pocketing by doing this unscrupulous activity, right? Of falsely booking shows and appearances under the guise of representing her. What happens now when she doesn't show up and a crowd has gathered and her name and her brand starts to look bad? So I see every reason why she should have done that. However, the lawsuit was eventually dismissed in 2021, and sources close to the family suggested that the two had actually privately reconciled their relationship and put that stuff behind them. Her dad later told news media houses that he wanted to just move forward and focus on restoring trust and building a better connection with his daughter. Again, daddy wasn't perfect, but he was there, right? So as the world now mourns the loss of Ronald Fenty, the fans and people who are close to her and close to them, they are showing support for Rihanna. So while she has not posted about her father's death in writing or made a video yet, those familiar with her know that she has always handled her personal matters with grace and in a guarded privacy kind of matter. Listen, Rihanna is the kind of girl, right? Believe it or not, it's only a few people that do this. She is the kind of person who has her childhood friends around her still to this day, took them to the top of the world with her, right by her side. And we're talking about people, when we use the phrase that we say sandbox play days, or from idea mini to my Jamaican audience, that means if you look at your body and you can see where your knees are now, that's where your eyes were. So you were actually that small when you knew this person first. In other words, she has kept the same people around her from she was a baby till today. And their friendship's tight and they're still together. She's that kind of person. So she's very private about her intimate life and about her family, very guarded as well. She is now a mother of two with another one on the way. She has won multiple Grammys. She's a billionaire entrepreneur. She is super private about her life. She is now a mother of two. She is a multi-Grammy winner. She is a billionaire entrepreneur and she is a national hero in Barbados. Usually they give national hero to people who have passed on already. Rihanna was given national hero status living and young enough to enjoy all of it. Rihanna has always been seen as a woman who carries the weight of her past with purpose, not bitterness. She's not angry. She doesn't have outbursts. She is not drug induced and intoxicated. She kind of has her head on her shoulders, if you know what I mean. I remember her saying a long time ago that she is a strong black woman and she comes from a long line of strong black women. And when she starts to have her babies, it'll be with a strong black man. And I said, wow. Because at the time I was thinking maybe Rihanna is going to come to the United States of America. No offense or anything. I'm not the kind of person who frowns at biracial relationships. I myself have had one. I was married to a German woman and have two children, for my audience who's listening. So I'm not against it. I just thought that she might have ended up that way because she had been with people like Leonardo DiCaprio and people like Ashton Kutcher at the height of her fame. So I figured that she probably would have ended up having babies by one of these A-listers, Caucasians. But when she came out and said that, and she stood on it, and years later we were witnessing her with A$AP Rocky and these beautiful babies, I still remember her saying, I am a strong black woman from a long line of strong black women, which told me where she stands in her mind as far as who she is, her identity on the face of this earth, and where her bloodline lies. So the death of her father will no doubt be a deeply personal loss, not just because she's his daughter, but as someone who made efforts to mend their fractured relationship over the years, even after years of difficulty And again, I say for the third or fourth time, Daddy wasn't perfect, but Daddy was there. Ronald Fenty's life will be remembered not just for his connection to one of the most successful entertainers of this generation and one of the most famous faces on the face of the earth, but as a man whose story included struggles and redemption and reflection and reconnection. His story mirrored the complexities of many families where love can be tangled with pain, and then there is forgiveness, and forgiveness can eventually take root if it is allowed to take root and heal some wounds, and life goes on, and then there is death and life again. His final years seem to reflect a man who had learned from his past and wanted to make things right, not only with his daughter, but with himself and those around him as well. He expressed pride in Rihanna's accomplishments and seemed to find peace in the idea of being a part of his grandchildren's lives. What a blessing! What a blessing. I always heard my grandparents say, God, please preserve me until all my children have passed the worst. And as a grandchild and as a small child, I didn't really understand that until I was an adult myself. They wanted to make sure that their 7 children had passed the worst, meaning they had accomplished things in life. They had established their footing in life. They had gained a position of financial security in life. That way they wouldn't have to beg and borrow and be in wants and needs that they couldn't afford to supply for themselves. They were able to live a life of some level of comfort and provide such for their grandchildren as well, right? Which was us, being that those were my grandparents' children, which my parents. So now that I look at it, it makes sense altogether, right? No greater blessing than for a parent to be around long enough to even become a grandparent and then to watch your children blossom and bloom beyond measures. I mean, there's only one Rihanna in the world, okay? If you talk about success, yes. If you talk about success beyond your wildest dreams, this is it. And he was able to witness this and be a part of it before he left Earth. We all shall leave here. It's just a difference in timing, who goes first and then who follows after. So Ronald Fenty leaves behind his children, his extended family, and a legacy that is forever intertwined with one of the world's most culturally impactful artists of our time. For Rihanna and her sibling Rajad and Rory, this moment is a reminder of fragile, complicated beauty of family and of the ways time can sometimes heal even the deepest wounds. But it also should be a reminder that time is not really on your side. So live every day to the fullest. Truly love those who love you. Even love them through their complications because no one is perfect and neither are you, right? May his soul rest in peace and may Rihanna and her family find peace in his passing. I'll leave this one right here and you can leave your comments in the comment section below and I'll catch you on the next video. It's SouFLoTV. I'm out. Peace.